Counselor? There's a raccoon stuck in the vending machine.
That's so annoying. I wanted a snack.
Welcome to Trail Mix.
Our mini episodes from Camp Counselors podcast.
Each week, the stories come from you, our Camp Shady Birch campers.
We want to hear your juicy gossip,
Top secret confessions,
embarrassing and scary stories,
and sprinkle in our sage counselor advice.
Trail Mix is for the campers.
And God, do we love ya.
Hi, campers. Just
Hi.
jumping in here to say that the video cut out halfway through on both of our cameras.
That's never happened before, and I don't understand. My phone was on airplane mode like it always is. I don't know why that happened to both of us at the exact same time.
I think it may have been our Ring doorbell notification, but I don't know.
It's not, because my phone was on airplane mode, so there was no notification.
So all that to say, there's video for like maybe 7 minutes and then it cuts out. So sorry, but the audio's there.
Yeah, the audio is there. So we love you. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey, happy campers.
Welcome back to Trail Mix.
This is our mini episode where we read you listener submitted stories.
We haven't recorded in a couple weeks. We usually batch these up, so we'll do like 4 at a time. So it's been a little bit. So it's been really exciting to get back into it and read some hilarious stories. The backlog is still so insane. Thank God we have people helping us too. But I don't know. I've been very impressed. I feel like for a long time we were trying to like just get really good stories, and now it's almost difficult to figure out which ones to pick because they're so freaking good. You guys are hysterical.
Yes, our backlog is well into the 200s. So if you submitted a story and we haven't read it, we're not ignoring you. We'll probably get to it. But if you've been thinking about sending in a story, send it on in to campcounselorspodcast.com.
Or campcounselorspod@gmail.com.
Yes.
Really quickly, I feel like I should let you guys know that I am a little hungover. I have good energy, I have high energy, but I am hungover. Dry January is now cloudy with a chance of rain. It took a turn. I didn't drink from January 2nd to yesterday, which was what? What was yesterday?
Yesterday, I think, was the 13th.
Yeah, so that's a good run.
Yeah.
That's a good dry run.
I had one glass of wine in between.
Yeah, so
that multiplied.
We're just doing a damp January. So, and it's funny. I posted that in my story last night, and I had a lot of people. I was like, "How's your dry January going?" With me holding a mug of beer, and a lot of people were like, "Same." I think a lot of us trying, and I think it's fine. I think every day that you make a conscious effort to not drink, that's great. And if you are, there's worse things you could be doing.
Yeah.
So.
More power to you. So, you want to talk about stories?
Yeah. What's your first one going to be?
So, I've got a story about a shirtless, creepy teacher.
Ooh, I have a story about a thrifty camper whose day takes an interesting turn.
A contained, silent, but stinky situation.
And a camper who faces a devastating blow from one of their neighbors.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Get out of the water and onto the dock. You're not going to believe what I just heard.
Okay, campers, I hope you're drying off with a nice towel on the shores of Camp Shady Birch. This is Gossip Talk. It's the part of the show where you share your gossip, your tea. It's like, hey, this isn't about me. It's about somebody else. Because when it's about you, that's Confession Canoe. But this is somebody else's drama that you're sharing with us. And we appreciate it because one thing about Camp Shady Birch is we're not afraid of a little gossip.
No, never are.
It's never hurtful, but it is juicy. And that's kind of our motive here. But Jonathan, you have the gossip doc, right?
I do. It is juicy, but it is also creepy.
Okay, but that's fine. It can be creepy and juicy. Let's hear it.
Hi, counselors. I've been obsessed with the pod ever since I discovered it back when you were only 20 weeks along. And then there's the pregnant emoji. Love that. Thank you for brightening up every week. A few weeks ago, there have been a few write-ins about weird teacher stories, which inspired me to write in with this bit of gossip.
Oh my God, I bet there's so many weird teacher stories, even more than we're ever going to get. There's just, teachers, they see it all.
Yeah, we love teachers, but sometimes there's weird teachers. So if you've got a story, send it in. Back in 2010, as a sophomore in high school, I had an English teacher. We'll cut straight to the chase and call him Mr. Creep. He was always crabby, always wore hoodies, obsessed with Star Wars, and just an all-around weird man. I feel like there's always that one teacher who's just really obsessed with Star Wars. Did you have that teacher?
Probably. I never pick up on, like, you guys know me. I'm not into mythical stuff. Like, you can miss me with the centaur, you can miss me with the dragon, and you can also miss me with the space aliens. It's just like not my thing. So if there was, I was too busy daydreaming about Barbies or something. I don't know.
We had a teacher in middle school and his entire room was just like Star Wars everything.
Well, if you're into it, whatever. I don't care. Like, I'm into Drag Race. It's like people might think that's weird. You know what I mean? So everyone's got their things. That's fine.
And then there was a math teacher and he was like AP math, and he was the original Swiftie. Like when her first 2 albums came out, he was like gunning for her from the jump, and he wasn't gay.
Well,
Okay. Well, I haven't checked in. Yeah, I haven't checked in.
I'm just
him
joking.
in
I'm
a
joking.
while. All right. So when I had him, he was probably in his early to mid 30s. And there was a rumor that his current wife was a student back in the early 2000s, like his student back in the early 2000s.
Oh, gosh.
Then when my brother was a senior in 2015, he had a legit affair with one of my brother's classmates, was fired, moved to another town, and lost his teaching license from our state.
So he had 2 affairs with 2 different students over a period of time?
Yes, but he was like, the one was in the 2000s and he's married to that woman.
But that was a student as well?
That was his student in the 2000s. And he like had that situation when
and this
she
is
was
a long
student.
time ago, probably.
Yes, but then the 2015 situation was like the end of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like, that's actually awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
I only had him that 1 year for English and study hall, and then figured I'd never have to think about him again for the rest of my life. Until
Until what?
it was the summer of 2019. I had been out of high school for 7 years, and my now husband I had been dating for about 6 months. My husband is from a different town, but his grandpa lives in my hometown. Every summer, his grandpa has a big gathering for 4th of July at his lake house, and it was my first time going to one of their family gatherings. We got to the house, and most of the family was already out back by the lake swimming and playing volleyball. We said hi to my husband's grandpa up at the house and started to walk across the lawn to the lake shore. I was already a little nervous meeting all of his aunts, uncles, and cousins, but I couldn't have prepared myself for what I'd see next. We get to the dock when I stop in my tracks for a hot second. The first person I see in the water is Mr. Creep, and he's shirtless, swimming, obviously.
It's really giving gossip doc right now. It's truly get out of the water and onto the dock. You're not going to believe what I just saw. Mr. Creep. It's the nipples. The nipples of a teacher I despise or I'm scared of. For me, I honestly, like, I know that's probably scary, but like for me, I'm just always curious if people look like shirtless and naked. I just like, it's not like a sexual thing. It's just like a curiosity thing. So I'd be like, oh, like, that's what my teacher should look like shirtless. Like, I feel like,
Yeah, it's like you see him every day for study hall, and it's like, what's going on with those pepperoni nipples?
yeah, it's like what's peeking beneath the little collared shirt. Now we know, Mr. Creep.
Peaky Blinders, if you will. And then she writes, I'm sorry, and then this Camper writes, but you should never have to see a teacher shirtless, which you disagree with, clearly.
Yeah, we clearly disagree with that.
He must not have recognized me. And to be fair, I used to color my hair when I was in high school, and I definitely looked different because he looked me dead ass in the eyes and said, "Have we met?" I wanted to fall off the dock. I panicked and didn't say, "Yeah, you were my creepy English teacher." So I spat out, "I haven't been here before." Which, great response. It's like, you're not lying.
What else are you going to say? I feel like, Camper, you really handled that well, gracefully.
You did. You weren't prepared for it, and you were talking to him shirtless.
He's probably sitting on like a flamingo like floaty, and he's got like some sort of like red Solo cup. I can picture he's wearing some sort of like light blue bathing suit with some sunglasses. Like, hey, how are you? Have we met?
They're like a little too small for him. Definitely like dry rotting from the sun. Probably torn a bit on the butt where he can't see it, but it doesn't matter to him because it was on sale at Old Navy about 5 years ago. Okay, so for the rest of the day, I refused to take off my swimsuit cover. I don't need Mr. Creep ogling me in a bikini. Ew. As soon as I had the chance, I discreetly told my husband and mother-in-law that he was my teacher, and they found a lot of humor in my pain. Turns out Mr. Creep is married to my husband's grandpa's stepdaughter, and the rumor was confirmed. She was his student. They got married around 2006 in a Star Wars / Harry Potter fusion-themed wedding, after he had been out of school for a couple of years.
Ew, but wow. But there's just so much to
wedding.
unpack there. The wedding theme, the marriage, the nipples. It's just a lot. It's a lot.
I want to see that wedding cake.
Me
What is she
too.
looking like?
It's like layered, like multi-layered. It's like one's Yoda, one's Gryffindor, one's Chewbacca, one's
The golden snitch, and it's like that spray paint. Remember when we used that gold spray paint that literally tasted like paint? That was concerning.
So like it's edible paint. I'm like, then why am I tasting fumes? I'm confused.
It's paint. You can just choose to eat it. My husband and I have been together for almost 5 years now, and Mr. Creep comes to every 4th of July and family Christmas. And we've never addressed the elephant in the room. He's still creepy as ever. Oh, and guess where we're hosting family Christmas this year? Yep, my new house. Can't wait to have Mr. Creep in my home. So this was written, I think, in November.
Yeah, it was
when
written
this was
before.
submitted. So give us a follow-up. How did that go?
I know.
Thanks for reading. P.S. If you don't get much snow in New York this year, come swing by Minnesota. We've got plenty. And you can finally visit the Mall of America. Sincerely, Creeped Out Camper in Cabin 4.
Imagine he's like perusing her bookshelf. He's like, hey, the yearbook. Wait, you are my student, and it all connects. I'd be panicking. I'd be like, take every photo down with me with multicolor hair. He's gonna clock it.
He's gonna clock it. I feel like if I was a teacher, I would have, because think about it, you get new students every single year, and think about how many periods are in a day. You get like a new class of students, at least in high school, every single day. I would be forgetting people left and right. So maybe he like just wouldn't remember seeing you anyway.
I think you're either like, I don't know. Like, I have a really close friend who married a kid from a different town, and his uncle was my biology teacher, and I was at their summer party, and I was like, hi. And he clocked me right away. He knew who I was like 8 years later. And that was before I did TikTok or anything. So it's like,
remembered.
I think they remember everything. I'm sure he probably remembered her and just didn't want to make it a big deal based on like his behavior. Obviously, he's like, don't out me, but I'm sure the whole family already knew. That's not something you'd like probably sweep under the rug. But good luck with Christmas. Make sure. I hope there was honey ham there.
This is a really big secret. Thank God we're on a body of water. This is Confession Canoe.
Welcome back to Confession Canoe. If you got a confession, send it on in. Just make sure it is not something extremely illegal, because we have gotten those emails and we cannot read them.
I know, but now we're getting some really scandalous emails, and we're like compiling them to make them like a Patreon episode. Like things that aren't illegal really, but things that we shouldn't say publicly because we can get in trouble. But then I'm like, well, if it's behind a paywall, I don't even care. So yeah, keep that in mind. If it's too risky, you might just be pushed to the Patreon. But this one is just, can I go first?
Yeah.
It's actually so hysterical because we both have a confession to do. Hey, happy campers. Over a decade ago, my older sister and her then boyfriend were living in Portland, Oregon, and I was invited to come out for an extended stay in the summer. I was 20 years old and had just finished my third year of college in Pennsylvania. I love Portland so far, and a typical day for my sister and I was walking to get a coffee and a pastry in the morning, then walking back to her place, and then going for an afternoon hike somewhere within an hour of the city. That is actually so dreamy. That's very fun.
It's Stars Hollow for sure.
Yeah, and like there's so many great coffee shops. My best friend Jenna, she owns a coffee place in Portland. I grew up with her. It's called Jen's Pastries. So if you are a Portland native, go support her. She's a New Bedford, Mass native. She moved there like 9 years ago. She never moved back.
And if she has the Earl Grey tea cookies
Oh my
on
God,
the
they're
menu,
insane.
so good.
She's so crazy. She's always so out of pocket on Facebook. I'm like, Jenna, this is not a personal account. This is your business account. Like, stop popping off at the local city ordinance for not plowing the streets in the snow. She's like, I don't care. They suck. I'm like, okay, girl, go off. But she lived for 9 years. That's insane. She never moved back. Okay, anyways, it was great. But after a few weeks, my sister needed to get back into her daily routine and told me to feel free to venture out on my own. I decided to give thrifting a go and Googled thrift stores in my area. I ended up Googling the Salvation Army, which is a thrift store I would typically go back to when she was in Pennsylvania. I jotted down the location and hopped on the streetcar for my first solo adventure. I arrived at the Salvation Army, and to my surprise, it was very different from the stores I was used to back home. It was a very large corner building in the heart of downtown Portland, and despite the appearance, my immediate thought was, wow, this is going to be so awesome. I walked in, and unlike most of their stores I'm used to, there was a woman at a window where you first walked in the door, and she asked me for identification and to sign in. I thought it was odd, but maybe different protocols at different locations. One of her questions to me was, how long will you be staying? Finding the question unusual, I still answer, I'm not sure. Probably not super long. She looked at me confused, unsatisfied with my answer. She then handed me a voucher and explained to me that one was for meals and one was for a jacket. I thought, this is very different. She tells me to let her know once I've decided if I'll be staying longer than today. I'm beyond confused by the interaction, but I take the voucher and walk into the main shopping area. To my surprise, I have not just stepped into the ultimate thrift store experience, but instead a full-blown homeless shelter.
Girl.
Yes, counselors and fellow campers, that's right. I have just unknowingly checked myself into a homeless shelter.
No.
Feeling extremely mortified and not wanting to make it obvious what I have just done, I decided to mingle around the shelter and check out the jacket section.
I check out the jacket section.
I do give my meal ticket to a man that is near the jackets and explain I won't be needing it before making my way back to the woman who checked me in and explain I've made a mistake and will no longer need to stay. Looking just as confused as she was when I first came in, she stared at me and said, okay. I exited the homeless shelter and made my way back to my sister's apartment. Needless to say, after telling my sister about my first solo excursion in the city and accidentally checking myself into the shelter, she made herself available for the rest of my visit there to more or less babysit me. And I've never lived it down to this day, over 10 years later.
Yeah, I wouldn't let anybody live that down either. She's like expecting to walk in and get some like old sweaters and Jenko jeans, and then she just checked herself into a homeless shelter.
Yeah, no, that's like absolutely insane and just a very naive, innocent mistake. And I get it. Yeah, I don't know. I obviously, like, as a lot of you know, like Portland does have a huge homeless population, so that would make sense for them to have big shelters downtown. Yeah, so I guess if someone's asking you, if they're giving you vouchers and they're asking for identification, there were some signs, but I think you just were like, hey, I like the idea that you wrote it, like, different protocols for different places. I'm open to it all. I'm a world traveler. Hey, I feel like you have a really good outlook on life, and maybe it's a little naive, but it is a positive one because you look for the best in things and you're open to new opportunities. So I also wouldn't let you live it down. And thank you for sharing that with us, because that's
quite the story.
Quite the story. I was actually laughing out loud when we first read that. I was like, oh my gosh.
She's like, keep Portland weird.
You also have a confession canoe for us?
I do.
Let's hear it.
A few years ago, I had to go to a place that helped me strengthen my math skills. A tutor, if you will. This was at the time of the pandemic, so we were all required to wear masks, so keep this in mind. To set the scene, the place I was getting tutored at had a main room for group tutoring, which branched out into smaller individual rooms for private tutoring. Each room, however, had a small glass window to see the other rooms. I guess it's for safety. Yeah, it was probably for safety. That's kind of how like my therapist was set up, minus the glass rooms.
Do they have windows in your therapist's office?
No, minus the windows.
Oh, okay. I'm like, imagine someone walking by and you're crying. It's like, I don't want a window in my therapist's office, by the way. Like,
No.
just let that be known. Like, if you need to record me for safety purposes, I guess that's fine, confidentiality, but like, don't be walking by while I'm like,
wait, no, actually he did have a window behind me, but he put like a curtain up. That it was just how the building was, so he put a curtain up, and then obviously he had the sound machines outside, which I found distracting, but I get it.
I get it too.
Confidentiality. Okay, so I was in the room with my tutor and the door was shut. We were going over math problems when suddenly I felt the urge to fart. I tried to dismiss this urge, but it just came upon me. I love that. I tried to dismiss the urge, but it simply came upon me.
Sometimes you just have to push through because that's what your body's telling you to do. And always listen to your body, campers.
And sometimes it just falls out or it creeps out the front and like you can't do anything about it. Luckily, it was silent. A few seconds later, though, I smelled the worst stench of my life.
Oh, no.
I had no idea something that foul could come out of me. Not to get graphic, but sometimes you just have those days where it's just like, I had no clue that this machine could create that product, and I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, when there's lots of rich vegetation and some roughage, you wouldn't believe what comes out of me, but I digress.
Then my tutor Joe just stopped talking. He looked around and he said, "Oh my God, what is that smell?" I had to play along because I was so embarrassed that the smell had leaked through his mask. I replied with, "I don't smell anything." And then I tried to distract him by asking questions about math. It's like, yeah, no, I don't smell anything. So does y always equal mx plus b, or is that only on a leap year?
What if she was like, I don't smell anything. Anyways, check out this awesome jazz square. And then she started dancing and he's like, first of all, if it went through the mask, that was a rich one. That was rich in heritage.
It was rich, and now it's like kind of stuck in the mask. You have to air that out. You got to step outside to get that mask off and like let it air. You probably need to replace it, to be honest.
My question is, do these windows open into the hallway?
Great question. My attempt at changing the subject did not work. He opens the door to air it out, but my homemade stench lingered and would not go away. My tutor said, I think it's the girl in the other room. Maybe she didn't shower. I felt terrible because this little girl was much younger than me, but I shamelessly blamed it on her as well. She's like, yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely her. We tried to move on, but the smell was too distracting. Joe ended up leaving the room to get Clorox wipes to wipe down the room so it would smell less like my fart and more like the chemicals of a disinfectant.
But you know it was both. It was
Yeah.
a mixture.
It was just a nasty cocktail. I continued to be tutored there for a few years after that, and each time I went, I was more embarrassed than the last. To this day, I still think about this event regularly. Signed, the smelly camper in cabin 11.
To toot in front of a tutor.
I didn't even put that together. The tutor. Tooter. I love that. The tutor and the tutor.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wait, that's cute.
That is cute. I like that. Well, hey, sometimes it's okay to blame it on other people. You know what I mean? Especially like in that situation, like blame it on the smelly girl. Like,
You do what you gotta do. It's survival mode.
you're in survival mode. So I would have done the same, and I'm really sorry. And maybe just next time, like,
Wipe.
enough.
Scary stories around the campfire.
Welcome back to Scary Stories Around the Campfire Campers. These stories can typically be scary, but most of the time they're just embarrassing, which is another form of fear, in my opinion. And this one would go with the latter. This one goes, Dear camp counselors, for context, I recently moved from my family home to my first house in a cul-de-sac in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Congratulations on the house. Whoop, whoop. And also Plymouth. Plymouth is actually, I don't know if people know this, is the largest town in the state of Massachusetts
Oh, I didn't know that.
by landmass, followed by Dartmouth, which is where I grew up.
Oh.
So we were the junior, you were the senior. I grew up in a neighborhood my whole life and was happy to find a place with the same vibes. I was feeling super lonely since I was used to living with my 6 sisters. Wow. So my boyfriend and I adopted a litter box puppy. Fast forward 3 months to leash training. Little did I know the horrors that would find me. I live in the beginning of the neighborhood, so you have to enter my street to go to the rest. Since Max, my puppy, was only a few months old, he usually goes to the bathroom right away. Now, I'm a responsible dog owner. I carry around that dreaded bag of poop for the rest of my walk in shame just like the rest of us. But this day was different. Max pooped before we hit the end of the street, so I had his poop bag in one hand and saw 2 loose dogs running around. I'm a super protective mother, and I was so nervous of these unknown dogs approaching that I quickly scooped up my child to continue to pass them safely. While I scooped him up, I made the decision to leave the poop bag, and I was planning on retrieving it on my way back to my house. Now, I've done this before, and I've never had any problems since I always pick it back up. Anyways, I dropped the poop bag, scoop up the puppy, and continued down the street. I let him down after the coast was clear and continued our walk. I get 2 streets down when all of a sudden I hear the revving of an engine. The revving becomes louder and more aggressive. I turn to look when a huge black truck comes racing towards us. The truck then drives by us, going what I believe to be 100 miles per hour, and throws the dog poop bag at me, screaming, "Pick up your shit!"
Oh my God.
The poop bag nailed me like a ton of bricks and exploded everywhere. I was so stunned and disgusted, but the Bostonian in me came out and screamed back, "I live on the street. I was gonna get it on my way back, asshole." Then, to my terror, the truck reverses and an old grouchy Scrooge man pops out and starts screaming at me, claiming he sees my bags all over the neighborhood and I always let my dog poop on his lawn. I was so angry, explained to them that my dog was 5 months old and I had recently moved there and couldn't be me. He quickly told me to F off and then drove away. As he drove off, I was fuming, campers. I used my skills from the tracking class at camp to find the truck and where he lived. And that's a course that we do offer here at Camp Shady Birch. We've noticed that a lot of campers haven't been attending Tracking 101 taught by Sandwich. As you guys do know, he was a beaver trapper in the 40s. So he has a really great survival techniques there. So this camper, as you can see, has taken our tracking course. So if you want that badge, let us know. We can sign you right up.
It's sounding like stalker class.
Well, okay, tomato,
Tracker.
tomato, tracker, stalking, whatever. This is for our camper safety. So she marched home and cooled off, figuring she shouldn't do anything rash. Fast forward to the next day, I walked by his house and in slow motion, basically begging my dog to shit on his lawn. Just, "Get it. Max, just take a shit, please, right here." Guess what? He slowly came out and apologized for his rage.
Oh, the man did.
He did. She goes, "It was so painfully awkward, and now I have to walk by this man's house with my dog every day in weirdness." Very much like the camper that was going into the tutor lessons.
Yeah.
Just never gets easier, does it?
Can you imagine if the dog was taking a shit when the guy came out? Like, that would be bad.
Well, that's what she was trying to get to happen.
No, I know, but while he was coming out.
Yeah, because then he was trying to apologize, and that would have just like vindicated him.
Yeah.
Safe to say, I'm still scared of this man to this day, as you should, and I hope no one else on Earth has to experience a warm bag of poop being launched at them. Signed, ducking poop in cabin 2. Clever girl.
Oh my God.
Actually, horrifying. I can't imagine having poop thrown at me at the velocity and then to be accused. Because Counselor Jonathan and I do know what it feels like to be falsely accused, as we have been targeted in our neighborhood as package thieves, and we're still trying to clean our reputation. So I can understand, but I have never had shit thrown at me.
Wasn't there that old man who would yell at you around the corner from you?
Where?
At your old place in Massachusetts.
For dog shit?
No, it wasn't for dog shit. He was just like yelling, and maybe he wasn't yelling at you, but he was just the grumpy old man from his window.
Oh, the homophobic man who yelled at me for kissing my boyfriend in my car, slurs, and threatened to kill me while his kid was on the porch, that I had to move from that apartment. That man?
No,
yeah,
I wasn't talking about that man, but I don't know about that.
Oh my God, yeah, my first apartment ever. My ex-boyfriend, when we first started dating, he came and I gave him a kiss goodbye, and he was sitting out my car window, and I kissed him, and he was like, he said to me, my kid's outside. And I said, excuse me? And he said, my fucking kid's outside.
It's like, oh, you want me to kiss him too, you nasty?
Like, it was so insane. And I told my my downstairs neighbor, the guy I talked about on the show who would like direct snow traffic. And he was like, oh, that's just how he is. I'm like, you don't get a pass for being homophobic as that's just how you are. No, you're an awful person. And I wish him nothing but the worst.
Neighbor. Okay,
but it's not about me.
That was not the neighbor I was talking about. But anyway,
I always got beef with some neighbor. I just got beef with everybody. Yeah, but never shit thrown at me. I'm so sorry, Camper. I hope you got to go home and clean yourself up. How's Max doing?
How's the dog doing? And then it's like, okay, but you can't. Why could you not scoop up the puppy in one hand and have the poop bag in the other? I'm not victim blaming here because you did get wrongfully shit flung at you. And I do believe you that you were going to go pick it up. I do believe that. But how big is this puppy we're talking? Do you need two hands for it?
That's not what it is. It's really just like having to, when you walk dogs and you have to carry around this shit, it's just like gross. So it's like, if you're always doing a loop and you don't care and you know that you're in your heart that you're going to go pick it up, it's like, yeah, I would also just not want to carry it if I don't have to carry it because it's got heat coming off of it.
Yeah.
It's not smelly. It's like, why? Okay. If I'm going to do a loop, like she's doing in her cul-de-sac, like, let me just come back. And it's like, you haven't seen me. I'm not a repeat offender. So who are you talking to right now?
Well, it's also like if he sees other bags, which everybody has like the same green bags. Like everybody has the same bags.
Compostable.
Yeah. So if he sees other people's bags, he's going to think that it's yours. But I'm glad that he came out and apologized yesterday.
Because that's assault. I'm sorry, real quickly. That's assault.
100%.
Yeah. You could have sued him.
That's assault and pepper. And yesterday we were with our friend Eleni and we couldn't really find a parking spot, and we did clock a parking spot that had a giant, it wasn't a cone. What are those things called? It was like
it's like a traffic cone, but the big ones that are like taller, that almost look like a wedding cake.
I was gonna say a trash can, but a wedding cake as well. The spherical ones, or not spherical, the cylindrical ones rather. So I'm like, I'm hopping out of the car and I'm moving this, and we're parking here. Like, this is our parking spot. So I hop out and I go to move it. Instantly stepped in dog shit.
Karma.
And it was stinky. It was instant karma. I wasn't supposed to do that, but we parked there anyway.
Yeah, but I would rather if you stepped in a bag versus the raw.
Yeah, it was raw.
So it's like, there's levels. Like, at least you picked up if you leave the bag, it's bad, but you could have not picked it up at all. It's just like, you know what though? It's to clean them up for your dogs.
Yeah.
But you were. So I'm on your side. I hope you're okay. Congrats on the house. Congrats on the cul-de-sac. Sorry about that poor neighbor. What an asshole.
So that's pretty much all we got for you for this episode, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you have stories, you can send them our way. We've said it like 10 times already in this episode.
Yeah. And we have great Patreon, review, subscribe, all the things, or don't do any of it. Who cares? We're just having fun with you. We love you so much, campers. Thanks for being here. With that being said,
lights out, campers.